March Madness, unpredictable, unbelievable, and chaotic. Blue Bloods, Cinderella teams, and dynasties. One of the most entertaining experiences you'll ever have while also experiencing the most heartbreak. While for many people that heartbreak comes after the Elite Eight, for me, it tends to be after the first round. Until this year. Auburn, Florida, Duke, and Houston are all fighting for a chance to hoist the championship trophy for their school. For only the second time in NCAA history, the men's Final Four will be all one seeds. Many like to call it a chalky bracket, while others, like myself, see this being destiny. Cailey and Julia, I want to talk about our first matchup here between Auburn and Florida, two of the most dominant teams in the SEC this season. The SEC Conference, which had 14 teams in the tournament, the most ever. These two teams faced up once this year. Florida taking the win 90-81. They're going to rematch for the second time. Cailey, I'm going to throw it to you first. Who gets it done in the rematch?
Unfortunately, safe to say there are no Cinderella stories in this one because, like you said, the top 4 1 seeds are all in the Final Four for only the second time, which is a bit surprising to me. But typically you see a little more madness in March, and we really haven't seen that. Now, we almost did in a way because Florida was in some rough waters when they played Texas Tech in the Elite Eight. That was no gimme game by any means. They were down by double digits with 10 minutes to go, and it took a big run, a big push at the end, 18-4 run to get them out of it. But that's been the story for Florida all season long. That's what gets them in these tough contests because they are able to switch the momentum entirely in their favor by going on these runs. They were down earlier in the tournament to Maryland and came back and won based on their dominant second half, outscoring Maryland 47-33. They did it again against UConn as well. And like I said, the last couple minutes of that game against Texas Tech. Texas Tech in the Elite Eight as well. They came back on that 18-4 run. And big thanks to this guy, Walter Clayton Jr., who, in my opinion, is the best guard in college basketball. And he showed that in that game, scoring 30 points and, more importantly, scoring 13 of those points in the final 5 minutes, including 2 key threes to get Florida that victory. He's going to need to be on top of it. He's their only first-team All-American in school history. He's going to need to be on top of it to go against this guy in Janai Broome because Auburn is no team to mess around with. And you could argue that they were the best team in college basketball, agree with me or not, for the majority of the season until Florida snapped their 14-game winning streak. Now, big thing about him is he went out in their game against Michigan State, so he may not be 100%. He claims that he will be, still put up 25 points and 14 rebounds, but there are some questions about how strong he will be, and he's going to need to be at 100% to go against Florida.
I'll tell you, both these teams are crazy in that sense where Broome comes into that game at the end and hits a big three after being injured. Wasn't sure if he's going to come back in. And Clayton just in a world of his own. But Julia, I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, definitely the key thing to keep in notice is Florida, their comebacks. Their threes have been clutch in the end, but if they don't hit those threes, they're not winning those games. So that's definitely something. I think this is definitely a game, as these Final Four games will be. They go to the final seconds. So that's certainly something to watch. And on top of Broome, Auburn also has freshman Dahad Pettiford, and he has just been incredible for the Tigers. He's the only one, him and Broome were the only ones who scored over 10 points in the last game. So that's another thing. The Auburn offensive depth isn't as strong, I feel like, as Florida's. And another key thing to watch is Auburn's free throw shooting. They shot 60% in that time that they lost to the Gators, 90-81. And against Michigan State, Auburn shot 55% from the free throw line. Free throws win or lose you games. And if you're Florida and it's a close game, I think you might kind of take that strategy of fouling the Tigers because they're not making them. So I think Florida, their three-point shooting, Florida, three-point shooting, Auburn, those free throws will be the key difference in this game.
And the one thing I will say as well is Auburn, they've been tested this season. They have one of the hardest schedules, if not the hardest schedule in college basketball, facing teams since February 1st. Every single team that they faced was in March Madness, was in the tournament. So there's no question of whether or not they can compete against these top 10 teams. It's just whether or not they're going to be able to take down Florida with maybe a subpar Broome.
And just being the one seed, you can't discredit them in any way just because they played the lower teams. They played, like you said, as one of the most dominant teams the entire season. They deserve to be that one seed, deserve to be here, and now they've made the run up, and now one of the biggest rematches here. But on to the other side of our bracket, who they will face in the finals, one of those two teams, Duke versus Houston. A rematch of last year's game. Houston looking to get a little bit of revenge here, but Duke, statistically one of the most dominant teams in NCAA history, led by 3 projected lottery picks here. Projected top lottery pick, Cooper Flagg, absolutely unbelievable in this tournament so far. They've dominated every team that they have played. Even when it seemed like it's gotten close, they've always managed to pull away at the end. Julia, I'm going to throw this one back to you. Who takes the match in this one?
I have to go with Duke. Duke is the stronger team, and of course, you can't talk about them without talking about Cooper Flagg. He's been an absolute sensation, averaging over 15 points per game. 3 of those 5 starters average over 15 points per game, and that offensive power has just been absolutely huge for them, and absolutely huge for them kind of as the program, as John Shire in his 3rd year has really rebuilt that strong program kind of back to where they were when Coach K left, and you can kind of feel that Duke basketball is back. And then for Houston, you have to talk about how strong they are defensively and just kind of that approach. So in a way, you could think that maybe they'll be able to shut down Duke's offense, but I don't think that even though they're so great defensively, I just don't know how much offensive power they have to kind of combat Duke's offensive power.
Yeah, you can't say enough good things about Houston's defensive efficiency. They ranked number 1 during the regular season in terms of adjusted defensive efficiency, and that was on complete display against Tennessee, who were just completely shut down in that Elite 8 matchup. They only scored 15 points in the first half, which is the fewest number of points let up by any top 2 team in tournament history. So you can't say enough great things about their defense. But they're a sneaky 3-point shooting team. They ranked number 1 in the regular season from behind the arc, shooting about 39%, just over 39%. So they're a great 3-point shooting team, which I think is their sneaky offensive strength. Now, they're no offensive powerhouse like Duke, though, who ranks top 15 in 3 really, really important categories. Number 1, free throws. We talked about free throws earlier. They've been kind of a problem all tournament. They always seem to be a problem in this tournament. Part of the reason is just the high-pressure nature of the situation. But Duke, they don't get nervous when they get to the line because they're shooting 80% from the free throw line. They're damn good beyond the arc as well, shooting just over 38%. And even from 2-point attempts in the field goal area, they're at 60%. So they're so dominant offensively that who knows if Houston's ability to adjust defensively is even going to be good enough to stop that. And Cooper Flagg, you can't say enough good things about Cooper Flagg. He's such a well-rounded player. 19 points per game in the regular season, 7.5 rebounds a game, and 4.2 assists. So I don't think Houston's going to be able to shut down Flagg, but I think it's going to be a much closer game than, for example, the Houston-Tennessee game was.
And with Flagg, it's kind of interesting because a week before the tournament, he goes down with that injury, and you're worried, is he going to even be ready for the tournament? Is Duke screwed? All this, all that. But they win the ACC championship. They get the 1 seed. They go up now against Houston, like you said. Top offense, top defense. Who's going to be able to stop one another? I guess we'll just have to see. It leads me to my final question, which we'll quickly go to, is who do you guys have winning now in the finals and taking home the championship trophy? Cailey, I'll give it to you.
I think the obvious answer in this situation would be Duke, just because of how dominant that they've been all season. But I think what March Madness is about is how you approach adversity and how you face adversity. The main team that's faced adversity in this tournament is Florida. They've played 3 decently close games, and they've come out of all of those games with a victory. Most recently, obviously, that Texas Tech game. That showed the true gritty nature of this team, and it also showed that Walter Clayton Jr. can come in clutch when he needs to, and I think he's going to do that for the remainder of this tournament. I think Florida takes it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to go with Duke. Again, not really elaborating too much. I feel like, we talked about their offensive power, and I think the Blue Devils are just too hard to stop.
Okay. I mean, we'll have to see. Obviously, 2 of the top teams in the country, very few losses on the season, less than 5. We'll have to see how it ends up.
Before we go, who are you taking?
Oh, Duke, absolutely. There's no question about it. Flagg was healthy, Duke all the way, Blue Devils. The madness comes to a conclusion this weekend, in which the semifinals will take place on April 5th and the finals on April 7th. Even if your bracket is busted, you're not going to want to miss these epic showdowns. That's all the time we have for this segment. For Cailey Thalman and Julia Henry, I'm Michael Landis. Thank you, and have a great night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this and so much more, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and X. For everyone here at Penn State Sports Night,
We are
Penn State Sports Night.